For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Jack Garamendi. I'm your county supervisor. I'm also a resident of Paloma. I live right over the hill here. So if you got a good driver, you could probably hit my house with a golf cart. I'm really glad that we put this together. It's been a long time since our community's had a meeting where we get to talk about things that are going on. Because of the nature of the time of the year, we thought it would be a good idea to introduce you to a lot of our disaster responders and fire preparedness people, and we'd like to really talk about that today. If there's one thing that keeps me up at night in this job, it's fire and how we are going to respond to natural disasters. We're fortunate in our community that we've got a firehouse now. Thank you very much, Local Fire, and your board for putting this together. And so the way we're going to run this meeting today is we're going to have some talking heads get up and tell you a little bit about what's going on and what we want you to think about. Then we're going to but we want to make sure that we have enough time to discuss individual. There's always questions that come up that may not be brought for the whole broad group, but you may want to bring up and talk to the people who are in this room. This is a pretty unique opportunity where we've got everybody from law enforcement to health and human services and everyone in between here in our town. So take advantage of it. If you have questions, grab these people afterwards and really pick their brain. Fred has a couple issues we're going to bring up. We're going to have to talk a little about other community issues, concerns that people might have as we wrap up as well. So the order of play is going to be Mike Delorda, we're going to talk, Moke Fire is going to present. Then we're going to have Cal Fire talk. The Sheriff's Office will speak, and then CHP Calaveras, OES, Health and Human Services, and the Red Cross. So we've literally got all the team that responds to a disaster in our community here. So this is a great time to ask questions. Like I said, at the end we'll have time for individual questions if you want to track people down. But I'm really excited to be here. It's good to see so many neighbors, and let's get going. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our Chief Mike Delorda and our Chair of his board, Susie Coe. Thank you so much for coming.
It's nice to see you all. It's nice to see you in here.
Yeah.
I think, just a little background, I think it was 2005 that the Board of Directors asked everybody in the fire district to put an additional $75 on their tax bill. That amounts to about $50,000 a year. And they said at that time, when we have enough and the opportunity, we'll put a station in Paloma. And here we are. We've changed board members several times, but they've all held the same position. The price for putting a station here is really high.
For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Jack Garamendi. I'm your county supervisor. I'm also a resident of Paloma. I live right over the hill here.
I guess
so
when everything was
if you got a
going
good
haywire,
driver, you could probably hit my house.
They came in, the bid was over $500,000.
I'm really glad that we put this together. It's been a long time since our community's had a meeting where we get to talk about things that are going on. So because of the nature of the time of the year, we thought it would be a good idea to introduce you to a lot of our disaster responders and fire preparedness people, and we'd like to really talk about that today. If there's one thing that keeps me up at night in this job, it's fire. And how we were going to respond to natural disasters. We're fortunate in our community that we've got a firehouse now. Thank you very much, Local Fire, and your board for putting this together. And so the way we're going to run this meeting today is we're going to have talking heads get up and tell you a little bit about what's going on and what we want you to think about. And we're going to but we want to make sure that we have enough time to discuss individual. There's always questions that come up that may not be for the whole broad group, but you may want to bring up and talk to the people who are in this room. This is a pretty unique opportunity where we've got everybody from law enforcement to health and human services and everyone in between here in our town. So take advantage of it. If you have questions, grab these people afterwards and really pick their brain. Fred has a couple issues we're going to bring up. We're going to have to talk a little about other community issues, concerns that people might have as we wrap up as well. So the order of play is going to be Mike
pretty
Delorda,
good
we're
for
going to talk to
volunteer
Mokil Fire is going to present. Then we're going to have Cal Fire talk.
So we're looking forward to
Sheriff's
being down
Office,
here. We
will speak,
consider this will
and then,
probably be,
CHP,
besides our firehouse,
Calaveras,
it'll be our main
OES, Health and
training
Human
room
Services,
because it's
and the Red
bigger
Cross.
than
So we've literally got
office-
all the
the
team
facility
that
in
responds
County
to
Hill.
disaster in our community here. So this is a great
Just
time
to
to
give
ask
you a-
questions. If you, like I said, at the end we'll
what
have
it
time
is.
for individual
The
questions if you
meeting
want to
room
track people
will
down.
come to this beam
I'm
right
really
here.
excited to be here. It's good to see so many
We'll come
neighbors,
up
and
to this crack
let's
right
get going.
here.
So without further ado,
And
I'd like to
this
introduce
way.
our Chief
So
Mike
this will be the
Delorda
meeting room.
and our Chair of his board, Susie Coe.
Facilities for, it's nice to see you all. It's nice to see you in here.
Yeah.
There'll be a little storage area where that, just a little background.
Handicap
Showers
showers are right now.
2005,
There'll be a handicap
that
bathroom
the
right
board of
here.
directors asked
This is
everybody in the fire
accessible
district
from this room. There'll be a
with an
handicap
additional
bathroom
$75
right there that's
on their tax
accessible
bill.
from the firefighters'
That
main
amounts
room.
to about $50,000 a
And
year
there's room for
and
two
to
fire
instead
engines
at that
here.
time, when we
There
have
are
enough
currently two
and
fire
the
engines
opportunity,
here.
we'll put a station
We're
in Paloma.
probably gonna go out for
And
bids.
here we
for
are.
The rest of this stuff.
We've changed board
because
members several times.
things are
but
getting
they've all
better
held
than
the
they were
same
2 years
position.
ago when we started.
Just to give you an idea of
The
numbers,
price
for putting a station here is really high.
Our workman's
By our
compensation,
Probably by your
Bill,
standards.
even though we're volunteers, this
we
year
went out
was,
to
I
bid
believe, $24,000 that we paid.
I guess when
Uh,
everything was going
No, that's
haywire,
the general liability insurance.
and they
That's-
came in,
So
the
place
bid
doesn't
was
burn
over
down.
$500,000.
General liability. Our
We
workman's
said-
comp, I believe, was 12,000.
No, we'll do it a piece at a time.
Bill,
So fortunately,
somewhere near $9,000.
the
So,
county,
You know, you look at your tax bill,
Garamendi,
you go like,
and the board of
Oh.
supervisors, what do they do with that money?
Awarded
McCallum Hill
Where's
Fire
that?
Protection
what the hell
District.
these people want money for?
But
$350,000.
there we are. It's made up in different pieces, but it's
Um,
a lot of
on
money.
fire
So that
season,
put us in a
we
position
rely
where
heavily on
we
our,
could actually start moving forward
neighbors,
on this.
both San Andreas,
Um,
Central Fire.
Some of the naysayers over the years
Consolidated,
said, well, they won't be able
Cal
to
Fire,
get any
all these,
volunteers in Paloma.
they
They respond, we back each
So,
other up. We have
uh,
several of them
we will
here
go
right now to
from
other
Paloma.
districts. They will come to
Uh,
us under our We actually have a structure fire, a wildland fire. Be
5,
careful, because the probably biggest
I
risk
believe
is
5
getting run
in
over by all
Paloma.
the equipment.
and they're
coming
just
in.
like everybody else, they have a job, but
So,
when they're not working, that's usually when people need them.
you'd think I
We
could
have
add a
them
little
here
more
and
than
they
that,
will
huh?
come all the way to
But
the
anyhow,
county.
we have our complement in the county, they
I'm
come
gonna
this way.
Turn it
So,
over to our.
We think
to
we're doing
Brent,
pretty well,
who's our
covering
Cal
our
Fire
district.
representative.
Last year, we averaged.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Brendan Brown. I'm a battalion chief here in the Paloma Calaveras unit. I currently run our Motherload Fire Center program, which is down in Tuolumne
We're
County.
looking forward to being
Actually
down
filling in
there.
for Chief
We
Hewlett
consider
and
this
Chief
will
Harrison, who
probably
normally are
be,
assigned
besides our
to
firehouse,
this
it'll be our
area.
main
One's out of county, one's on
training room
vacation.
because
So
it's
I
bigger
just found out
than
about this
the
about
the
2 hours ago, so I
facility in the county.
apologize. So
to give you
kind of what I want to talk about real quick is what you
what it
get
is.
from us when we
The
do
meeting
have a
room
fire
will
in the
come to
Paloma
this
area.
beam right here.
So how CAL FIRE
We'll
works and
come
how
up
our
to this
allied
crack right
agencies
there.
work in collaboration
And
when
come
we get
back
a
this
fire
way.
is we will
So this
get
will be the
a
meeting room.
notification to our command center in San Andreas. They will enter it into our CAD
Chairman Coe
system,
is
and
going
then
to
based on
get
weather
the
conditions, the call
facilities
type,
for
things of that nature,
cooking
you can
and
get anywhere
sinks and all that
from just
stuff.
4 engines and a battalion chief
There'll be a little
to 8
storage area
engines,
where that-
a battalion
where those
chief, 2 hand
handicap
crews, a bulldozer,
showers
2
are right now.
helicopters, 2 air tankers, and an air attack
Handicap
platform.
bathroom right here.
So we are very
From this room.
very on the ball
Handicap
with
bathroom.
that. We really pay
Yeah,
attention
it's
to what the weather conditions are like as they change, and we monitor
And
that
there's
hourly
room for
every day.
2 fire engines here.
anytime we have
There are currently
you know
2 fire
weather
engines.
that is like the
Uh,
weather today, we're automatically
we're
sending
probably gonna go
that
out
high
to bid
dispatch that I
the
just
rest
talked
of
about with the
this
8
stuff
engines and all the aircraft.
Because
So
things are getting
on
better
top
than
of
they
that,
were
that's just CAL
2 years
FIRE
ago when we
resources. That
started.
doesn't include the allied agencies that Chief Delorda was
Give you an
talking
idea
about
of
from McComb
numbers.
Hill, from San Andreas Fire, from Calaveras
workers'
Consolidated Fire. So
compensation
you get a lot of fire trucks
bill, even
here
though we're
all
vol-
at the
we're
same
volunteers.
time typically. And like
This year
Chief
was,
Delorda
I
said,
believe,
probably the biggest hazard
$24,000
for the
that we
public is
paid.
making sure you don't get run over by all of them coming
No,
in.
that's the general liability
So,
insurance. That's
what,
someplace to write it down.
What
general
you can
liability.
do
Our
to
workman's
help
comp,
us
I believe, was 12
in a firefight here in Paloma
Our fuel
is
bill,
make sure that you have your defensible space.
somewhere near
And
$9,000.
essentially what that is the state
So,
fire marshal
if
just
you
changed
look at your
the
tax
law
bill,
here
you
recently
go like,
regarding what defensible space is. So we
what do they
have
do with that money?
3 different
We're
categories
saying,
of
the hell do
zones.
these
We
people
have
want money
the
for?
zone 0 or
You know,
area
here we
0.
are.
That is
Everybody's
the
the same.
area 5 feet around your house.
On fire season,
Up to the
we
exterior
rely
wall.
heavily on
Essentially
our,
what we're trying to have you do is
neighbors,
remove all
stand dress,
flammable materials.
central
So,
fire,
any dead
consolidated,
brush, any
Cal
dead
Fire,
grass, anything like
olives.
that is supposed to be some
They
type
respond,
of
we back
bare
each
mineral
other up.
soil
We
or
will
rock
go
or something to that
other
effect to make
districts,
sure
they will
that
come to us and
if
by the way,
we don't get to your house in time
if there's
and
a
something's
structure
smoldering
fire or a
through,
wildland
it
fire,
doesn't
be careful,
smolder through that
because
dead brush
probably
and then
the
burn
biggest
right
risk
up
is
to your
being run
house.
over by all
The
equipment.
second zone is what we call our zone 1. That is our 5 feet to 30 feet. We typically
I
advocate
think I
for
could
about
add little more
a
than that, huh?
4
But
foot,
anyhow.
or I'm sorry, not 4 foot, 4 inch clearance
I'm
of
gonna
grass. So
turn
you
it
cut
over
your grass
to,
down to about 4 inches.
Brent.
In that zone, remove any
Cal
dead
Fire.
material, anything like that, within that 30
My name's
foot
Brent Brown. I'm
area.
battalion
And
chief here
then
in the 20
our
Calaveras
zone
unit.
2
I currently run our
is
Motherlode
our
Fire Center
30
program,
feet
which
to
is down
100
in,
feet. And in
Tuolumne
that
County.
area, we're
Actually
trying
going in for
to
Chief
get
Hewlett
rid of
and
any
Chief
dead
Harrison,
material,
who
any
normally are
thick
assigned
brush,
to
anything
this
like
area.
that.
One's out of
And that
county, one's
helps
on
us
vacation, so
to
I just
defend the
found out about
structure,
this,
even if we're not there.
2 hours
So-
ago, so I apologize.
You a fighting opportunity
so
to protect your house.
kind of what I want
in
to talk
case
about real
the
quick
fire
is
gets there
what you
before
get
we can,
from us
before
when
we
do
can
have
from
a
San
fire
Andreas or
in
from
the
the Paloma
Paloma
Hill
area.
or even so
from
how
here,
Cal Fire works and
we all
how
know
our
fire can move very fast,
allied
and
agencies
so
work in collaboration.
being on top of
When we
that,
get a
taking
fire
care of
is
that
we will get
annually is
notification to
a
our
really
command center in San
big
Andreas.
task that we
They
ask
will enter it
from you
into
guys,
our
and
CAD
we
system,
understand that's
and then
pretty-
based on weather
it's a pretty
conditions,
big
the
ask,
call
but
type, at the same
things of
time,
that nature,
it's
you can
insurance
get
for you
anywhere
guys.
from
Just 4 engines and a battalion chief
on the
8
topic
engines,
of insurance,
a battalion chief, 2
not
hand
trying to
crews,
open
a
up a can of
bulldozer,
worms
2
with that one.
helicopters,
The state fire marshal,
which
is
under
we are
Cal Fire's
very,
umbrella. Just
very
changed
on the
fire
ball
hazard
with
severity
that. We really
zones.
pay attention
So
to what the
that's
weather
going
conditions
to
are like
kind of
as,
change some of the
they
things
change.
we
monitor
that
hourly,
may be
every
available
day.
to you in
So
terms of insurance.
anytime we
I'm
have,
not familiar with what weather
Paloma
that
is
is
like
right now. It's
the weather
going to
today,
be a high
we're automatically
hazard
sending
severity
that-
zone
that
or
high
a
dispatch
extremely
that
high
just talked
hazard
about the 8
severity
engines
zone
and all the aircraft.
And so basically
on
on
those
top of that,
zones,
that's just Cal Fire resources. That
the
doesn't
information
include the allied
gets
agencies that Chief
looked
Looked
at by
by
insurance
insurance companies,
companies,
and
and
they
they Hill
typically look
from,
at what kind of
San
San
Andreas
Andreas
fire
fire
from
if you live in an
Calaveras
extremely high
consolidated fire. So
or
you get a lot of fire
a very high
all
hazard
at the
severity
same time.
zones.
Typically,
Typically,
like Chief Delorto said,
they've been dropping
the biggest
insurance.
hazard for the public is making sure you
so
don't get run over.
one
by
of the
a helicopter
things that's
coming in.
available is the California
So,
Fair Plan. I'm not trying to sell
what,
insurance. I don't make any money off of it.
what
but
you
it's just
can
an
do to
option
help
for
us
you to
in a firefight here
to
in
look
Paloma
into if for whatever
is
reason
make sure that
over
you
the
have
past
your
couple of
defensible
months.
space.
Because it's been happening.
Essentially
in
what that
Calaveras
is
County.
if
your
your
state
insurance
fire
is gonna
marshal
get
just
canceled,
changed the
look
law
into the
here
California
recently
Fair Plan
regarding
to
what
see if
defensible
it's something
space
that may
is. So
work
we
out
have
for you, because
3
we
different
definitely want
categories
you to be able to
of
protect
zones. We have
your
zone
assets
0
or
or
resources.
area 0. That is
those are
the
just some options
area
out
5
there.
feet around your house up to the exterior
See
wall.
here.
And essentially what we're trying to have you do is remove, when we
all
do get a fire
flammable
out
materials.
here
So,
that goes beyond what
any
we call
dead
our
brush,
initial
any
attack
dead
grass,
phase,
anything like
typically
that,
after
after
2
2
hours,
hours, some
and it's
type
continually
of
burning.
bare mineral
We don't
soil
have,
or
engines
rock
all the
or
way
something
around
to
it,
that
or we don't
effect.
have
Make
a
sure
control line
that
around it.
if
What
we
we
don't
will
get
start
to
doing
your
is
house
we'll start
in time,
backfilling. We have a
and
very
something
robust
smoldering
mutual
through,
aid system in
it doesn't.
California.
So if we
We
have a
have
large
smolder
fire
through that
here,
dead
we can
brush
pick up
and
the
then burn
phone
right up to your
and
house.
order. The second zone is
dozens
what we
of
call our
engines,
zone
and
1.
they'll
That
be
is
here
our
within
5
hours.
feet to 30 feet. So we have a
typically,
great network
advocate
for
through
our
a
partners at Cal
4
OES,
foot,
or
I'm sorry,
network
not 4 foot,
through
4 inch
our own
clearance
department
of,
and
grass,
other
so you
interagency
cut your grass down
agreements
to
that
about
we
4
have with
inches.
like the
In
Forest
that
Service.
zone, remove
You
any
could
dead
see
material,
on
anything
large
like
fires
that.
down here. You can see
within that
engines
30
from Los
foot
Angeles County. You could see
area
engines from the
and
United
then
States Forest Service.
Our Zone
Bureau
2
of Land Management
is
our
and
other
30
agencies
feet to
like that.
100 feet.
So, and in
One
that
of the
area,
really
we're
cool
trying
things
to
about that is
get rid of any dead material.
you know
any
if you
thick
do have a
brush,
fire here,
anything
you're going
like
to
that.
get fire engines
and that
here
helps
from
us
everywhere.
to
They're coming
defend the
to
structure,
help
the community,
even if
if we're
we're
not
not
you.
So
So we're going to put
that
our
gives
fires out. And
you
we're going
a
to make
fighting
sure
opportunity
that
to
we get
protect
you
your
guys
house
back in
in
your
case
homes.
the fire
in an
gets there
expeditious
before we
manner.
can
before we can from San Andreas or from Paloma Hill or even from here. We all know fire can move very fast. I don't really have anything else other than that. I can take some questions afterwards. And then I do have some website information for you if you guys are interested in any of CAL FIRE's at the same time information regarding either defensible space, ready, set, go for evacuation processes. Any fire information, especially locally, the state fire marshal, also for the fire hazard severity zones, CAL FIRE's umbrella, California just changed fire hazard severity zones. So that's going to kind of change some of the things that may be available to you in terms of insurance. I'm not familiar with what Paloma is right now. It's either going to be a high hazard severity zone or a extremely high hazard severity zone. And so basically in those zones, the information
I'm Greg Stark, Lieutenant with the Calaveras
looked
Sheriff's
at by
Office.
insurance
One of my
companies,
jobs
and
is
they
to help
typically
coordinate
look at
evacuations and
what kind of zone you live in.
fire
And if you
assets
live
that
in an
come
extremely
during
high
any fire.
or
So the way the fire department works,
very high
the Sheriff's
hazard
Department works on
severity
fire.
zones,
As
typically
soon as the fire is
they've been
dispatched,
dropping
when the fire
insurance
engines roll, we
people.
send a deputy.
So
preferably a
one of the
supervisor,
things that's
but
available
not
is the
near
California
sergeant,
Fair
excuse me,
Plan. I'm not
deputy.
trying to sell insurance.
Once
I
they
don't
get
make
there,
money
they
off
link
of
up
it,
with
but
the
it's just
incident
an
commander at the
option
time,
for you
wherever they are on the
to,
fire line, to find out if there's
to look into
evacuation
if
needed,
for whatever
which way the fire
reason
is
over the
heading,
past couple of
and to make
months,
the
because
determinations
it's
of
been happening in
where there'll
Calaveras
be
County.
warnings and what
If
would
your
be
insurance has been
evacuation
getting canceled,
we let them
look
make
into the California
them
Fair
fire
Plan
make
to see
the
if it's something
final
that
call
may
on that.
work
We're
out
not
for you,
experts in
because
the fire.
we
just have the
definitely
legal
want you
authority
to be able to protect your
to get
resource
people
or
out
your
there.
assets and all
So
your
we'll go door to
resources
door
and
if we
everything
can.
else.
There's
So
Nixle.
those are just
I'll
some
let,
options
OES
out
talks
there.
about that. There's electronic notifications through social
see
media.
here.
But we'll go door to door. We'll knock on the door. We'll tell
When
you
we
guys
do get a
either
fire
warning or
out
order
here that
and
goes
which way to go.
beyond
So
what we
first
call our
question people ask
initial
when we
attack
say,
phase, which
"Hey,
is typically after
time
2
to go,
hours and
there's
it's
fire coming,
continually
is where do I
burning.
go?"
We don't
And
have
the second question they always ask is,
engines
"When
all
do
the
I
way
go
around
next?"
it, or we don't have
So,
a control line around it.
Red Cross will
What
talk
we will
about the
start doing is we'll
evacuation
start
centers. We'll direct you
backfilling.
to
We
where
have
the
a very
evacuation centers are
robust
if we
mutual
know.
aid system in
If not, we'll
California.
direct
So
you to
if we have a
safe
large
path to
fire
travel
here,
out
we
the
can
area.
pick up the phone.
Once that
and
happens,
order
we're responsible for providing
dozens of
security
engines,
for
and
that
they'll be
area.
here
So we'll leave
within
deputies
hours.
in place, and like fire,
So
we'll bring in
we have
mutual
a
aid
great
resources from
network
across the state,
through
closest
our
agencies
partners at
first,
Cal
to
OES.
come
We
in
have
and
a
help
great
do extra
network
patrols,
through
prevent
our
things
own
of that nature.
department and
One
other
thing that's
interagency
really
agreements that we
indicative
have
of
with
this area, I know a
like
lot
the
of you
Forest
have
Service.
animals,
So you
a
can
lot of you have
see
livestock,
on large
that's
fires
part of
down here,
your
you can see
business.
engines
If
from
you
Los
haven't
Angeles
got a
County, you can
ranch
see
access
engines
pass
from
or
the United
emergency
States
ranch
Forest
access
Service,
pass, I urge you to
Bureau
do
of Land
that.
Management,
During a
and
fire
other
is not the
agencies
time to
like
try to
that.
find
So
them. And
one
what
of
that
the
is
really
it's a
cool
pass
things about
that's
that is
logged into our office.
you know if
that
you do have a fire here,
verifies that
you're
you
going to
have
get fire engines here
livestock
from
or some type of
everywhere. And
agricultural
they're
that you
coming
have
to
to
help
take care
the
of
community, they're
during
coming to
fire.
help you.
It's not a
and
get into the
we're
fire
going to
free
put our
pass.
fires
Doesn't mean you
out,
go
and
up to a
we're gonna make
roadblock
sure
and say, I
that
have a pass, I
we
get to
get
go
you
in.
guys back in
But
your
if the
homes
conditions are
in
right,
an
especially on a
expeditious
long-term
manner.
fire, if fire's okay with
kinda leave that
operations and you
part
guys
up
going
to
in,
you, Greg.
you go in, take care of your animals, and come out.
So
Years
I
ago
don't really
during the
have
Butte Fire,
anything
we had
else
problems with
other
ranchers not being
than
able to
that.
access their
I can
cattle
take some
and
questions
things like
afterwards.
that.
And
we
then
also
I
had
do have
people
some website
getting through the
information
lines
for
and
you if
rescuing,
you guys are
animals
interested
that
in
didn't need to be
any of
rescued.
CAL FIRE's
So we use that as a vetting
information
process to
regarding
make sure
either
that the
defensible
right people
space,
get in
ready,
and the
set,
right
go
people
for
stay out,
evacuation processes.
So then once it's
any
time to
fire
repopulate,
information,
if there's
especially
no fire
locally,
in your area
and
or in
then,
your neighborhood around
also
your house,
for the
it's
fire
really easy
hazard
to say,
severity
hey, come on
zones
back
here
in.
within,
If there is
California,
fire in the
as they
area,
change
let's say the
rules.
road was damaged, the
Right.
utilities were damaged, there might be hazardous waste from propane tanks and things like that burning. We'll coordinate with our local OES, our fire, and make sure that it's safe to let you back inside that burn scar. We have a whole repopulation document that we go through every line item to make sure when we put you back in, we're one, making sure the fire's out of the area, and two, making sure it's safe to send you back in.
I'm Greg Stark, Lieutenant with the Calaveras Sheriff's
Office. One of my jobs is to help coordinate evacuation available and liaison to the fire assets. So that's basically the Sheriff's Office responsibility. The way the fire department works, the Sheriff's Department works on fire, we go with their direction. As soon as the fire's dispatched, we take a lot of the fire engines roll, we send a deputy. Input from them, and then once it's burning, they're doing their thing, and we're doing our thing in coordination. Once they get there, they link up with the incident commander at the time, making sure they are on the fire line, and any other thing like that doesn't take place. We take a zero tolerance. If somebody's inside the evacuation area, they go to jail, period. We let them make citations, them fire make the final call on that. We're not experts in the fire, we just have the legal authority. We don't put up with that in any way, shape, or form. So we'll go door to door if we can. There's anybody gets into the area, the OES talks about that. There's
I'll take some questions
electronic
at the end.
notifications through social media.
Real quick.
But we'll go door to door, we'll knock on the door, we'll tell you guys either warning or.
Order versus
order.
warning.
And order is, so the first warning's the lowest of the two.
Hey,
So warning is there's
time
a
to go,
fire
there's
and
a
it's
fire
likely coming your
where do
way,
I
you
go?
will be impacted. The second question
At
they
that
always
point,
ask
it's
is
good. When do I come back?
opportunity to start, getting people
Red
to come over
Cross
to your
will talk
house
about
if
the
you have mobility
evacuation
issues,
centers. We'll
start
direct you
gathering
to
your
where the
medication, your
evacuation centers
pets.
are if we know.
Not necessarily
If not, we'll
going,
direct
but
you
getting
to
ready to
safe
go.
path of travel
Maybe if
out
you're
the
low
area.
on gas, maybe you do go.
Once
Fill
that
up your
happens,
tank.
we're
Maybe just
responsible
get out of the
for
area for a little
providing
while, but it's
security
not
for that
mandatory.
area. So we'll
And
leave
order
deputies in
means
place,
it's imminent,
and like
fire's
fire will
coming, and mutual aid
you need to go
resources
right
from
now,
across the
grab
state,
what you can
closest
and get
agencies
out.
first.
To come
And we
in
don't
and
do
help
that.
direct patrols, prevent looting,
Sometimes during fires,
things of that
people
nature.
think we do that
One thing
early or
that's
too early,
indicative
we've
of
gotten
this
beat
area,
up
I know
a
a lot
little
of
bit
you have
about.
animals,
Well, why'd you
a
tell
lot
me to
of
go
you
now?
have
The fire's
livestock,
way over there.
and that's part of your
I'm not a
business.
fireman, but
You
I've
haven't
seen
got
fire
a
behavior in the
ranch
last
access
few years
pass or emergency
accelerate.
ranch access pass,
The
I
Butte
urge you
fire
to do that.
really was an
During a
eye-opener to me,
fire,
because
is
again, I'm not a
not
fireman,
time to
watching
try
how
to
fast
find
it moved.
And what that is
and
it's
I'll
a
let
pass
Brenton
that's
talk about
logged
this, but
into
fire's
our
moving
office
in
that
historical
verifies
rates
that
of
you
spread.
have, and with the
Heavy
livestock
winds,
or
it's just
some
gonna
type of
push it so
agricultural
fast.
that you have to take
We'd rather
care of
err on the side
during
of caution
fire.
and get you out,
It's not a
get
get
into
into
the
the
fire
fire free pass,
and maybe
doesn't
make
mean
you go up the
inconvenience,
roadblock and
then
to come
have a
back and
pass
have
I
to
get
tell
to
you
go in.
when. But if the
that,
conditions
you
are
know,
right,
you waited
especially
too
on a
long, you
long-term
waited
fire.
too long.
So
If
the
fire's
order
okay with
is you have to
operations and
go,
you guys go in,
and the
you go
warning
in,
is
take
get
care of your
ready
animals
to
and
go.
come out.
Years ago during the Butte fire, we had problems with ranchers not being able to access
I'm Aaron
their
Carnahan,
cattle
Sergeant with the
and things
CHP
like
in
that.
San Andreas
And we
here.
also had people
Really,
getting
our
through the lines
role
and
is to
rescuing,
support the fire department, sheriff's
animals that
department.
didn't need to be rescued.
I just kind of want to
So we
speak a little
use
bit
it
about
as a
our
vetting
resources
process to make
and
sure
what you can
that the right
expect
people
from
get
us.
in and the right people
Typically, on a
stay out.
given day like today, we have
So
two
then once
officers. for
it's
this
time to
whole
repopulate, if there's no
One's a
fire in
copper
your
officer
area
now,
or in
one's
your
in
neighborhood or
Howard
around your
Street,
house, that's
and
really
me
easy
driving
to
around
say,
trying
hey,
to
come on
fill
back
the
in.
gas.
If there is fire in the
So,
area,
in a
let's say
big
the road was
incident
damaged,
where there's a
the
fire coming
utilities
in,
were
we need all
damaged,
kinds of personnel.
there might be
Part of
hazardous
our
waste
culture
from
is we
propane
call in
tanks
help
and
from
things like that
Sacramento.
burning. We'll
And it's
coordinate
not
with our local OES, our
unusual
fire,
to call it
and make sure that
during
it's
the Butte
safe
fire. We
to
had
let you
chippies
back
up here
inside
from
that burn
Oakland.
scar. We have a whole repopulation
And they just
document.
show
that
up
we
at
go
work in
through
Oakland,
every
they get
line
sent out
item
to the
make
mountains
sure
for the day.
when we put you
So
back in,
understand that when you
one,
guys have a
making sure the
chippy
fire's out of
working
the
at
area,
intersection
and two,
near your
making sure
home,
it's safe to send
they're
you
not
back
gonna be
into your
familiar
house
necessarily with
or
this
to that area, knowing that there's water.
If we need to call in 100 people,
electricity
we'll call in
available,
100
things
people,
like
but
that.
they may not be from, they're not going to be.
So that's basically the sheriff's office
So kind of bear
responsibility
with
in
them, help
wildfire.
them out.
We
If
support
there's
fire, we
detour
go with their direction.
opportunity that you guys are
We
aware of
take
that
a lot
we're not,
of,
let us know. and we'll
input from
support where
them,
we can.
and then once it's burning, they're doing
guess
their
any
thing, and
questions
we're
for me?
doing our thing in coordination with CHP, doing their traffic control points, making sure that looting and any other thing like that doesn't take place. We
We're gonna have
take
a lot
a
of
zero
questions after.
tolerance.
Get all the
If somebody's
information out
inside the
there.
evacuation area, they go to jail.
Case you can answer
Period.
some of the questions.
We don't give them citations, we take them straight to jail.
Good morning. I'll let
What
Dave
happens to them
Belcher
then, whether
give
they
the
bail out or
spiel, but
not,
I just wanted to
they go
introduce
jail.
myself. I'm the
We
new
don't put up with that in any way, shape, or form. Sheriff
John
Peterson is
Osborne's
very,
place, so if you have
very
John
adamant that
Osborne's
anybody
place,
gets into the area goes to jail, period.
I'm now measuring my
And I'll
time
take some
here
questions
in
at the
weeks
end.
instead of days, so can you real quick as I speak to order versus value? My background, I've got 30
Order
years
versus
of
warning.
service.
Order is, so we'll go
I
warning.
just,
Warning's the
left
lowest of the two.
Calaveras,
So warning is, there's a
around
fire
the,
and it's likely
State
coming your
Operations
way and you
Center
will
in
be
the
impacted.
northern part of
At that point, it's a good opportunity to
OES
start
over the last 3 years, so,
getting people to come over to your house if you have
here,
mobility issues,
learning,
start gathering your
coming to these
medication, your
events,
pets.
about
Not necessarily going, but getting ready to go.
people and
Maybe if you're low on gas, maybe you do
we'll
go,
talk about
fill up your
OES, but
tank.
Our
Maybe
three
just get out of the
phases
area for a little
of
while, but it's not
emergency
mandatory.
services, what we do
An
is we
order
plan
means
for
it's imminent,
events like
fire's
we're doing
coming,
today,
you need to go
getting out
right
in the
now,
community,
grab
planning for the
what you
events,
can and get out.
forecasting
And we don't do that.
an emergency is going to happen.
Sometimes
whether it's
during
wildfire,
fires, people
flooding like we saw
think
this
we do
winter,
that early or
any
too
other
early, and we've
catastrophic
gotten beat up a little bit
that
about,
occurs.
well, why'd you tell me to go now, the fire's way over
And
there.
then we respond to.
I'm not a
so
fireman,
our
but
role
I've
and
seen fire behavior in the last few
responsibility
years
is to
accelerate.
coordinate amongst all these
The
entities
Butte
and
fire
agencies,
really
whereby we'll
was an eye-opener to me, because
operations
again, I'm not a fireman, watching how
located
fast it
government,
moved. And I'll let Brenton talk
San
about this,
Andreas.
but fire is
We'll
moving
coordinate.
in
We're not here to run the fire.
historical
We're not
rates
here
of
to run the
spread,
incident.
and with the
We're here to
heavy
make sure
winds,
that the
it's just gonna
incident
push
is
it so
coordinated
fast.
with all the resources
We'd rather
that
err on the
be
side
it
of caution to
through
get you
county
out and make sure
resources,
you're
roads
safe,
department,
and maybe a little inconvenience
transportation,
than to come
public
back
health,
and have to tell
or
your loved
whether
ones
it's an
that, you
additional
know,
resources.
we waited too
Mutual aid,
long,
we
or you
talked
waited
about
too
best
long.
mutual aid
So
time
the
in
order
California.
is you have to
We
go,
really have the best plan,
and the warning is
best
get
mutual
ready
aid
to go.
System, probably in the world, in terms of moving fire apparatus, police officers, ambulance.
I'm Aaron Carnahan, Sergeant with the CHP in San Andreas here. Really, our role is to support the fire department, sheriff's department. I just kind of want to speak a little bit about our resources and what you can expect from us.
We have all those resources to bear.
Typically, on any given day like
to
today,
do the
we
planning
have 2
piece.
officers for this whole
Defensible
county.
space is big.
One's in Copperopolis right now, one's in
check on your
Valley
neighbors.
Springs, and me
Waldina
driving
talked
around
about the
trying to
evac
fill
system that we
the
have here.
gaps.
And then the last,
So,
the third
in
leg
a
of what
big
we do
incident
is we
where there's a
recover
fire
from the
coming
incident.
and we need all
We're
kinds of
still
personnel.
recovering
Part
from
of our
the
culture
fire
is we
county.
call
We're
in
still
help
getting
from Sacramento.
resources and money
And
from
it's not
FEMA, from state
unusual to
partners
call
on
it,
that to
during the
not
Butte
only
fire,
rebuild,
we
but
had
to,
chippies up here from Oakland.
build in mitigation impacts.
And they just
to make
show up
things
at work in
more
Oakland and they
resilient,
get sent up to
build
the
back
mountains.
better. So we're doing
So
that. We're
understand
still
that when you
recovering
guys
from
have a
the
chippy
storm, so,
working an
that's what we
intersection near your
coordinate also.
home, they're not going to be familiar necessarily with this area.
We coordinate
If we need
through
to call in
the
100
state
people, we'll
resources
call in 100 people,
to
but they
get
may not be,
CalVS
and they're not going to be.
to assist us. And then
So
bring
kind of
in
bear
our
with them,
FEMA
help them
partners
out.
to also,
If there's detour
build back better.
opportunities that
So
you guys are aware of that we're not, let us
what we're
know.
focused on.
And
So
we'll
if you
support
have
however we
questions
can.
later on that. Please
Do you guys have any
reach out.
questions for
Also
me?
Give us your deal. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep it real short and simple. What's gonna happen is the sheriff's office is gonna notify us that
We're gonna have a lot of
fire,
questions after,
flooding
this.
going on.
Get all the information out there.
Any kind of disaster that's happening in
Just
the
to answer
county.
some of the questions.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our
Good morning.
notification
I'll let
system,
I'll
which is
give the spiel,
Everbridge,
but I just want to
now
introduce myself. I'm the new
Genesis
OES
Protect,
director.
which is formerly known as
I
Zone
took John
Haven.
Osborne's place.
I have these little cards here with me. Afterwards, if you wanna know
I'm now
your
measuring
zone,
my time here in
I can
weeks instead
write
of
down on
days,
this
so
card, you can throw it on
bear
your
with me
fridge,
as I get
so
to
that
know
when we
all you.
do go to do
My
evacuations,
background, I've got
we push it out through that
30 years
system,
of
we'll
fire
say,
service I just
we'll just take this as
Cal OES,
zone one.
the state in Sacramento. I ran
The sheriff's
their,
office is gonna
state
let us know,
operations center
hey,
and,
zone one
part
is
of
either,
OES for the
right,
last 3
order
years.
and warning.
Warning.
Warning and order.
Here,
So the warning's gonna go out first,
coming
and
to these
they're gonna
events
tell us, hey,
learning, about
put that zone in order,
the
you'll get a notification on your phone saying, it's time to go.
OES, but
So
our
once
3
you're done,
phases of
you got all your
emergency
bags
services,
packed
what
up,
we do is
everything you
we
can
plan
get.
for
You're gonna take
events
this
like we're
red
doing
tag,
today,
you're gonna either
getting
put it
out
on
in
your
the community,
front
planning
door
for the events,
or your
forecasting,
mailbox.
what
This is
emergencies
gonna
that
help
happen,
the sheriff's
whether it's
office
wildfire,
identify
flooding
who
like
has
we saw
already
this winter,
evacuated,
or any other
um,
catastrophic event.
just so
that
they can move
occurs,
on to the next
in
house
the county.
and get them
And then
out.
we respond to, so
A lot of
our
questions we get
role and
is,
responsibility
if this
in
red tag
this
is on
county
my
is to
front
coordinate
door
amongst all of these
and,
entities and agencies,
or my
whereby
mailbox,
the emergency operations
looters are gonna
center,
come
which is,
in and,
located at the governor's
know that we're not there.
center.
Sheriff's
San
office is
Andreas.
really good
We'll
about
coordinate. We're not
knowing
here to
if
run the
you know,
fire,
you're-
we're not here to
someone
run
is
the
not
incident,
supposed to
but
be
we're here to
there,
make sure that the
or
incident
they're
is
supposed to be
supported,
there,
gets all the
just
resources
based
they
off
need,
this.
through county
I think there was an
resources, roads
instance up in
department,
Arnold once,
transportation, you've got public
where
health,
someone
or
with
whether
the red
it's,
tag on there, the
additional resources,
sheriff's office saw a
mutual
light
aid, we
on,
talked about the road
they went in
department,
because no one was
Mutual Aid,
supposed to be in
California.
there.
We
So
really have
this is
the
a
best
really
plan,
important
or the best
tag.
mutual
If
aid
you don't have
system
this, I'm gonna leave a
all
bunch of them
over
right
in
here.
terms of moving
Feel free to
fire
take
apparatus,
one,
police
two,
officers,
however many you
et
need.
cetera. We can get them
It's
from,
better to be prepared
all over.
than
In fact,
not.
I
So
flew
other
in
than
a
that,
strike
I
team
think
from New
that's all I
Jersey
got.
2 years ago on a giant.
I want to speak to the
Zone
C5
Haven
plan,
and the
or the Genesis
Genesis
Protect and the Everbridge.
State. So the
No,
early
we have all those
notifications
resources
there, but we need you to
Telephone
do the
used to be
right
away,
piece.
we got pagers,
Defensible space
to
to
get
get
notifications.
notifications.
Now,
Now
we're
we're
24/7
check
on our
on
cell
your neighbors. Valdino talked about
Supervisor earlier about what we're doing.
We
And
put
then
the
entire
last, the
county
third
into
leg
a-
of what we do
into
is
a-
we
in a
recover
advisory
from
mode.
the incident.
So
we're
you'll
still
get a ping on your cell phone to let you know
fire
that
here in
it's
the
going
county.
to be
We're still
hot this
getting
weekend, which we
resources
don't know.
and
But it also will tell you where the
FEMA,
local cooling
from
center is
state
for
partners, the
on that
advisories,
to
it's not
not
only
only
rebuild,
but
but
to,
if you're worried about the government,
tracking
build
your
a
cell
mitigation
phone
and all these different things to make things more
out there.
resilient.
They're already tracking.
Build back better.
I tell you.
So, myself included, we have the ability and the technology to send wireless emergency alerts. We coordinate through the state resources for us to get Cal OES gotten a couple from the state last year, and then bring in our FEMA potential blackouts. So your phone's rang and let you build back better as well. So those 3 things are thermostats down. But what I'm trying to get you to do is one, download the app, sign up, know your zone, get these alerts.
Yeah,
You
so
get
we're
spam
keeping it
calls
real
daily,
short
you
and
get
simple. What's gonna
anonymous,
happen is
annoying
the
texts.
sheriff's office
We
is
won't
gonna
do that
notify
to
us
you.
that
We will only
fire,
alert you and notify you
flooding going
if
on.
there's something that you need to know.
Any kind of
So,
disaster that's
we're not
happening in the
gonna sell
county.
your contact
And
info to the
what we're gonna do
Chinese
is
or
we're gonna
anybody
use our
else.
notification
We're definitely
system,
going
which
to,
is
be
Everbridge,
cautious
now
and judicious
Genesis
in
Protect,
notifications.
which is
We're
formerly
very,
known as Zone Haven.
very
I have these
thoughtful
little
about
cards here with me.
over-notifying.
Afterwards,
using it
if you
for
want
the
to know
local
your
bake
zone,
sale or the
I
community.
can write down on this
We're only
card,
going to
throw it
notify
on
you
your
in an
fridge,
emergency.
so that when we
please
do
help
go
us
to do
help you by
evacuations,
downloading
push it
those
out through
apps,
that system and
signing up for your
say,
zone, and getting those
we'll just take this as
notifications to save you.
zone
Thanks.
one.
Just another thing
The
I'm
sheriff's
gonna
office is
touch
gonna
on
let
is
us know, hey,
a lot of
zone
questions
one
we
is
get
either,
are, what if there's no service, there's no Wi-Fi, we don't have that.
warning and order. Sheriff's office will come, so the warning's gonna go out first, and they're gonna tell us, hey, put that zone in order, you'll get a notification on your phone.
This is just an
saying
additional layer of
it's time to
protection.
go. So once you're done, you got all your bags packed up, everything you can get, you're gonna take this
We
red
did,
tag,
like,
you're gonna either
so
put
we
it
have
on
the
your
cooling
front
centers
door
open,
or your
Not only
mailbox.
we've been making
This
notifications.
is gonna help the
Michael will
sheriff's
speak to
office
that as well, but
identify who
we've been
has
making
already
notifications
evacuated.
on our social media, our apps.
Just so they
word
can
of
move
mouth,
on to the
trying
next
get
house
as much,
and get them out.
Info out. on the
A
cooling
lot of
centers.
questions we get is, if this red tag is on my front door and, or my mailbox, the looters are gonna come in and, know that we're not there.
Michael Lagagna,
Sheriff's
Assistant
office is
Director
really
of
good
Human
about,
Services, and thank you
knowing
for
if,
allowing us to
if
be
someone is
here.
not supposed to be
So I'm
there.
going to talk about the
or
role
they're
that
supposed
Health
to
and
be
Human
there,
Services
just based
plays
off
during
this.
incidents, as well as
I think there was
some
an
of the things that
instance
we've
of
done at the
Arnold
agency level
once,
to prepare for incidents.
where someone
The
put
first
the red
thing is
tag
Health
on
and
there,
Human
the
Services
sheriff's office saw a
oversees
light on,
what's called an
they went in
emergency
because no one was
support
supposed to
function.
be
There's
there.
several
So
functions,
this is a really
about
important
15
tag.
that
If you don't
focus
have
on
this, I'm gonna
specific
leave a bunch
areas
of them right
during
here.
emergency
Feel free to
management.
take one, two,
One of
however
those is
many
mass
you
care and
need.
sheltering. So Health and
It's
Human
better to be
Services,
prepared
along with
than
some of our
not.
partners, do
So,
mass care and
other than
sheltering.
that,
So when there is a warning, we are notified by ODS. They set up an emergency operations center. We start planning, so we start preparing our staff, we start assembling our resources. We do have a trailer that has several supplies in it to open up a shelter, and that includes beds or cots,
so you'll get
hygiene
maintained on
kits,
yourself
blankets,
already,
things like that. Very
not
basic,
things that you don't
minimum.
know.
But also we're opening up a shelter.
The advisory that's
We
in
also,
there.
so we
If you're
have
worried about the
that,
government tracking your cell
that
phone
opens
and all
up.
these
When there's an
different things
evacuation
out there,
order, we
they're
have
already
several
tracking
sites
it.
within the county that
So,
are set up, working with Red
myself
Cross.
included,
So we open up a site depending
the
on
ability and the technology to send wireless.
Something's good on
alerts.
paper, but
Uh,
may not
that's
be
the-
good in actual practice. When
for
we
us.
have the flooding, for
Probably you've
instance,
gotten a couple from the
we
state,
had planned to
last
open
year
up
you
the
got it
veterans
during the potential blackouts. Your phone's
building
ringing,
in Valley
you know,
Springs,
your
but there was flooding on two parts.
thermostats down.
One
But what
on,
I'm trying to get you to
I
do
believe
is
it's,
one, download the
one
app,
side is
sign up,
26
know
and
your
the other
zone,
side 26. So it was
get
very
these
difficult
alerts,
to get
you
people
get
there.
spam calls.
So we ended up
daily,
opening
you
it
get
down to
anonymous,
school for
annoying
that
texts.
reason. So we have several
We
sites
won't
that
do that to you.
are
We
alternatives
will
to those,
alert you and
depending
notify you
on the
if there's
situation or
something
the
you need to
incident.
know. So, we're not gonna sell your
Again,
contact
when we
info
get the
to
order,
Chinese
the very
or anybody else.
basic level
We're
of
definitely
care
going
that's
to,
needed, so we
be
provide
cautious
along
and
with Red
judicious
Cross
in
snacks,
notifications.
water,
Very,
food, and cots
very
and
thoughtful
bedding.
about
So that's what to
over-notifying
expect in a
using it
shelter.
for the
When
local
we
bake sale or, you know,
prepare
community
for these
thing.
incidents,
We're only gonna notify
there's
you
a
in
couple things that we
emergency.
do at the
So
agency
please,
level.
help us help
Within
you
the first
by
3 months of
downloading
me
those
starting,
apps,
I
signing up
put in
for
a
your
policy
zone,
that
and
trains
getting
people
those
on
notifications
the
to save
incident
you.
command
Thanks.
system, which is a
Just
system
another
that
thing I'm
all of
gonna
us
touch on
use for
is
communication and
A
managing
lot of questions we get
a
are,
incident.
what if there's no
And
service?
that gets us all on the
there's
same
Wi-Fi,
page.
have
We
that.
use the same
The
common language.
Sheriff's office will come
So
knock
they
on your
complete
door.
that within their first
Get
3
you out.
months of any new hire. We also coordinate with Red Cross to
just an
do
additional
shelter trainings and shelter supervisor trainings. And we've done that annually. This is the second time that we've done
We
it
did.
since I've
Like,
started.
so we have the cooling centers
And
open.
Dennis will speak on that as well. So we've trained up to 30 of our employees to open up a shelter, and about 10 to 15 to manage the shelter. And we coordinate that with all of our community partners. And our partners really are key to that because we don't have unlimited resources, as many of us are aware. So we rely on a lot of our community partners to make that happen. Red Cross, we work together with Public Health. Michael Lagagna, I'm the Assistant Director of Health and Human Services. So if there's any needs to address people with access and functional needs, we can place a request to bring in healthcare personnel to take care of their medical needs. We also have additional supplies, hospital beds that we can order for those that traditionally may not be able to use a cot and may need additional assistance. We have wheelchairs, things like that to prepare for those who have access and functional needs. The other thing, I'm going to keep it short as well, is during an emergency, make sure that you have, and Red Cross will speak to that too, an emergency kit or a go bag. that includes your essentials, that you have to take with you when there's an emergency that you can grab. And you can place those anywhere in your car. I have one in my car, and it just includes your essentials. Be mindful of those, especially older adults or people with disabilities, if they have any particular needs, medications, a pair of eyeglasses. One of the things during the Butte fire that came up is make sure that you have at least a change of clothes, because that'll be an issue as well, to include those in your go kit. For cooling centers, I'm the main point of contact for the cooling centers. We do have 6 of them open, starting at 10 until 8, and it'll be Saturday and Sunday. With the exception of Murphy's, they've decided to open up on Monday, yesterday and Monday as well, for the excessive heat that's happening here. So I do have that information, but they are available. People who need transportation to those sites, that is available by Calaveras Connect, who can schedule a ride to provide you transportation to and from those sites. I think that's it. Unless I missed
I have a
anything.
question.
Sure.
What do you recommend as far as how much medication you should kind of have in your little stash to take with you in your go bag?
We don't roughly have the amount, depending on what you
Days,
have.
per
What
day.
we would
How many
recommend
days?
is just similar to water, have a couple days of backup in case something does happen.
Okay. It seems to me during the Butte fire they said 7 days because they were having a heck of a time trying to get the pharmacies to fill prescriptions for people that had left without their medication.
So in that case, and we did learn a lot from the Butte fire, and we do have public health that does support the med system side of it.
Okay.
So we can connect with pharmacies, we can connect with nursing staff to do an assessment at our shelters to decide to assess whether or not there are certain medications that people need to try to get them to them if they forget. But always prepare for those incidents because we don't know how long that can happen. So we do have those resources, and if we need additional support, similar to fire, we do have other resources. Our trailer only holds 30 cots. We can work with Red Cross for additional cots. We can also contact the California Department of Social Services. They have about 100 cots in a trailer within the region, so they work with Amador, Tuolumne, Stanislaus to provide additional support if we need to. And they also have what's called a FAST team for their medical professionals who can assist those with access and functional needs and medical conditions as well.
Great.
And finally, Dennis, Red Cross.
Dennis Lewis. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dennis Lewis. I'm the volunteer partner for the paid staff member, Rebecca, who has Calaveras, Tuolumne, and Amador. I'm replacing her today because she's on PTO, very deserved. She's brand new and she's just learning all the ropes. Address some of the issues. I've been with the Red Cross about 17 years. I was the operations chief for the Butte fire. I was the operations chief for a couple of weeks there in Hawaii for the first volcano eruption. I was the district director for the Camp Fire. I've been doing sheltering and shelter manager for a number of years. During the Butte fire, as was mentioned earlier, we all learned a lot, okay? And most of that was by mistakes. And those mistakes will not be repeated again, okay? Some of the questions that I've heard, we have, like Michael was saying, there's a cooling center at McCollum Hill Library, which is the closest one to you if you need it. The next one is at the Calaveras Library, and then there's 4 others throughout the county. When the county notifies Red Cross that they're opening a shelter and there are evacuations, then my boss calls me and I get on the horn and I start calling volunteers. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that's where we need help. It's not so much helping being a volunteer for the Red Cross. It's just to show up at the shelter and help welcome the folks that are being evacuated. How many of you here have been evacuated like me? not fun, is it? And it's really not fun not knowing where you're gonna go, what you're gonna do, what you're gonna find, and most important, when can I go home? Will I have a home? Will my neighbors home be okay? You know, during the Butte Fire, there's a lot of folks who the fire missed their homes, and they have guilt complexes because their neighbors didn't make it to the home. You know, when Red Cross gets notified of a shelter, we put out the word for our local volunteers. We have 4 in Amador, we have 14 in Calaveras, we have 18 in Tuolumne. Okay. During the last time we actually opened up a shelter was during the Barney Way incident in West Point. The county asked us to give them a hand. They were going to open up 2 shelters, one at the McCullum Hill School and one at West Point's Community Hall. So we put the word out for volunteers. Well, our volunteers live in the same community. I live above West Point. I'm 17 miles off the grid above West Point. It takes me 45 minutes to get down to West Point if I don't have to cut out a tree or fight snow. So the volunteers that we had, we called, they were snowed in, trees across driveways, roads were flooded, couldn't get out. But we managed to operate that shelter, and the reason is because Red Cross brought folks in from besides the county who had folks there. One person came from Tennessee, one person came from Texas. Okay, we'll bring them from wherever. They'll volunteer. Red Cross will bring them here and they'll stay for the duration, for at least 2 weeks. Okay? But that's where we need that help. For that very first couple of hours, that very first day, maybe even a day and a half, until we can get everybody down there. Okay, and once we get everybody down there and we start getting the schedules, then we'll thank you and you guys can stay and help or you can go home. Okay, but that's where we need help. And to help you help us, we are willing to come down here and train you on how to open up and operate a shelter. To give you the basics. It takes about 2.5 hours. Okay, and all you have to do is give Red Cross a call and say that's what you want, and they'll call me and I'll come down here and we'll arrange it. Okay, we only need about 6 to 8 people, all right, and then I'll do it. Susan asked a question about medication. My recommendation is paper bag, put it all in a paper bag, take it all. You don't know how long you're going to be gone. You really, really don't know how long you're going to be gone. Animals, if you have domesticated animals, large animals, when you get the warning, that's when you need to leave. And the reason you need to leave when you get the warning is what happens if you have a flat tire. Okay? What happens if the trailer in front of you jackknifes and blocks the road now? Now you got to help them get out of the way, and the fire's coming. So don't wait till the last minute. I hope I kind of covered. I've got so much stuff I can talk. I can talk for hours about what you can do and what we can do to help you. Okay? But it's hot, and I'm the last one. So if you have questions, they're all here. Back to you, Jack.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Before we get to questions, Chief Miller had a couple items to put out.
I was going to point out that Garrett is one of our firefighters, and he lives here in Paloma. There you go. Garrett's one of our firefighters from Paloma. Josh, Dustin, who's missing? Oh, and Little Jack, except he's got to stay in college. And introduce you to Captain Lily Paloma. She is making life easier for me. But there's one thing, good news I wanted to give you, is there's of course the insurance companies don't care. But it used to be that they relied on what's called the Insurance Services Organization to evaluate the ability of your fire department to protect you. And it's rated on all kinds of things, how big the engines are, how well trained the people are, and that and that and that. The rating system goes from 1 to 9 or 0. 9 or 0 is that you have no support fire department. It works us all the way down to where we were about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were a 6 and we were happy to be a 6. We got down to a 5. 2 years ago, we became a 4. So we are in the top, basically, third of all the fire departments in the entire United States. And that's because of your people. Our association, we have a volunteer association, we have representatives there. They raise money. They have money that was donated to them that will be used to turn this into our training center, and also will be usable by the town of Paloma to have meetings, and it'll be a little bit bigger than what's available. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mike. We have one more. We should be really proud of our
One
firefighters.
more addition from the fire department is I want to remind you all of our color-coded address sign system we have available if you haven't purchased your numbers, your numerics for your residence numbers. We have them in there color-coded if you have healthcare concerns at the residency, flammable liquids at the residency. We have different colors, and the sign-up sheets for those are available at the Mokel station if you're interested.
We have one more addition, large animal evacuation. Should be of great interest to most of us in the community.
Hello, everybody. My name's Amy. I am with evacuation teams of Amador, and we are located in Amador County. However, we do work very closely with Calaveras County. Anybody who's familiar with what happened during the Butte fire, we were one of the main groups that went out and helped you all rescue animals. So that was when ETA was actually established, was during the Butte fire. And Bobby Lawton, who's at Lawton Ranch, which is located in Jackson, right next to the Rayleigh's shopping center. That's where our evac center is. She realized there was a need during Butte. The people had animals and no way to get them out. And so that was how ETA was established. Since that time, we've worked the Caldor fire, Electra fire, the mosquito fire. We just recently did some rescues for some animals in the snow this year. We also have assisted law enforcement in locating missing seniors. We've done a couple cattle truck rollovers. So if there is a need, that's what we do. So I know a lot of people, everybody here is animal people. And so what you need to know is, I know most people have trailers, you got trucks, you got a plan. However, what if you're in Sacramento and something happens and you can't get into your animals? We work closely with law enforcement, CAL FIRE, fire departments, law enforcement, and so sometimes we can get behind the lines, sometimes we can't. All depends on fire activity. So for us, it's better for you to call us sooner rather than later. Everything we do is volunteer based. It is no cost to you. So what you do is you call us, we come out, pick up your animals, we either take them to our evacuation center in Jackson, or if you have somebody else you want them to go to, a family, friend, we'll take them there. When the incident is over and it's safe, we'll pick up your animals and bring them back to you. The animals are cared for, fed, watered daily. We have 2 different vets on staff that take care of the animals, so all the needs are taken care of by everybody. So the best thing to do is is to pre-register your animals. I have information here for you so that you can get online and register. Everything you do on our portal is safe. Our secretary is the only one who sees it. It makes it a little bit easier if you have your animals pre-registered, because all you have to do is call in and say, my name is so-and-so, this is my address. She pulls it up on the computer, verifies these are the animals, and then we're dispatched. So everybody in our group that goes out and does animal pickup, we do extensive training. We do a lot of FEMA classes, fire classes, traffic safety, and we are constantly doing continuing safety classes to try to stay up on stuff. And we only go out when it is safe. Like I said, we work very closely with the fire department and law enforcement to make sure that everybody stays safe. And like I said, sometimes we can get behind the lines, sometimes we can't. All depends on the situation. So your best bet is to call us sooner rather than later. So I have information here. I have some brochures. I have some pre-registration forms, magnets. So if anybody would like information about our services, like I said, it's free. So definitely, if you already have a plan, great, but at least use this as a backup.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So in the 8 years that I've been supervisor, coming up in 8 years, we've had 15 declared disasters. This is since the Butte fire. So this team has gotten a lot of practice. And I think we'd all agree that we got a good team and we've thought through a lot of parts. And most important, we practice a lot. And unfortunately, we get a lot of real life experience. So I'd like to give our community, give these guys a hand of applause. Thank you. These are our neighbors, guys. These are part of our community. So, I know you may have some stuff you want to talk about, but let's start with your questions related to what our presentations are or other issues, because we've got the right people all in the right room. So, Joe Pitto.
Thank you, guys. You've been designated national heroes since 9/11/01, and rightly so. I myself have been saved by some of the people in this group more than once. Thank you. Why some of us citizens are here is we've been promised a fire station, a functional fire station, since I had a full head of hair. And I would ask you guys to meet again as a group. We've got all of the brain power necessary to achieve this victory. Find a way through the red tape and BS, capture some federal money, make it happen. There's nobody we got to defend us better than you. Thank you.
This meeting is happening because I had some talk with some of the people that are responders here in Paloma. They're your neighbors. They're people that are from this community. They really care about this firehouse. They really love it. I'm going to tell you some little facts about this place, and I want to hear some answers from the right people about how we get water to this firehouse, because these guys have to wash themselves off if they respond to a hazmat fire or something like that. There's one hose bib out there, a 3/4 pipe, doesn't even have a regulator on it. It runs at about, 75 or 90 pounds or whatever. The water comes out here. They should be washing off their fire trucks when they come back and responding to a fire. They should be able to use the restroom facilities that are supposed to be there. This is supposed to be a cooling center from this here that our chief just told you was a designated area for the meeting rooms, etc. It's also supposed to be a cooling center. Somebody talked about cooling centers. Paloma's supposed to have one. There are a lot of people here that are elderly or that come from a time when there wasn't internet and there wasn't cell phones and etc. And many of them are, as I am, are challenged by that. And when somebody starts telling you www. etc., that doesn't mean anything to us. The other one is that things that I heard, insurance. After the Butte fire, and actually after a lot of those other fires that a lot of more people died in, our insurance went up so high that many of us, especially ones who are on Social Security or a limited amount of assets, had to give up their homeowner's insurance because you can't afford to pay the exorbitant prices that they have. Another thing that I want to call to everyone's attention, especially the fire people, there is a canyon here that goes down to the McCollum River on the Gwynn Mine Road. It's east and west. On the other side of us is East Bay Municipal Utility District, preserve. There is the McCollum River Canyon on the north side of us. We are primed to be victims of a catastrophic fire because of the fuel loads that have been a part of the reason why so many of these fires are so famous now. So those are concerns that we should have help to address, and people who are limited in their ability to manage the larger pieces of property that they have and keep them fire safe for themselves and for their neighbors, we need to come up with ideas about how we're going to do that as a community. I really think that this community meeting idea is something that is going to give us an advantage of organizing ourselves in ways that make it so it's possible. Somebody might have, if you look around, I went up the Gwen Street putting out these signs for the meeting and etc., and I saw a lot of places that are not fed off. So if there's a fire and it comes up the canyon and it hits that grass, somebody can't, maybe they used to have cattle or maybe they raise a calf or whatever, or some horses, or it's not happening anymore. And those places are going to be able to ignite somebody's home. Once there was a fire, it was down outside of San Andreas, near the Calaveras River Bridge. And I went through there, and it was burning up off of the side of the highway, so they weren't holding people back. When I went to San Andreas, and when I got to the gas station, I stepped out of the gas station, and there were little pieces of manzanita leaves, perfectly formed, and they were going like this, and they were landing in that parking lot. So the fact that you've cleaned your area around your house of a lot of things that could burn, I noticed that a lot of people, especially even myself, I did it once. I don't do it anymore, but I put my wood for my wood stove close to my house because it was too far to walk to get the wood, and take it in the wintertime. But when I didn't burn it, then it's sitting there all fall and all summer and into the fire season. And once again, those kind of things are things that we don't think of. But if you have a roof that might be inflammable, a lot of people have metal roofs here. There's a reason for that, especially the older places, you've seen that. But there's other people that have roofs that might be flammable. And those ashes that I'm talking about, it doesn't matter if it's on East Bay Mud. And they've got a great fire department too. We didn't get anybody from East Bay Mud here. But East Bay Mud has a really good fire response team. But Paloma is, I'll say it again, Wynn Street, there's no exit. Gillum Road, there's no exit. There's a lot of houses and people that live on them. I don't know if any of you live on those roads, but those are things that are really important because in a time of needing to evacuate, and there's only one way in and one way out, and it's not a 4-lane road, it's a 1.5 lane road, or
if you're
less,
lucky.
or less, that's right. And those are things that we would like to have some knowledge of how to handle these situations in the reality that exists, not after the fire or once the emergencies are called and all the services, which is so wonderful to have, for after there's a fire event. I would like to see that we have something in place that makes it so that we're doing preventative work in this community with the help of everyone in this community to make it so that other people that maybe can't do it can be safe, and that whenever this kind of an event happens, we're not going to have to suffer the consequences as badly as we would from, say, other people who have. Because I know I have friends that lost, I believe I know the first person that lost their house in the Butte fire. I'm certain that person was the first person that lost their house in the Butte fire after it came out of the Columbia River Canyon. East Bay Mud did not want any fire retardant on it. So there was no retardant sprayed on that valley, and the fire came up out of that canyon, and it started raging across, and it jumped across Highway 26. And have you seen that? It's over near Boston Hill when it jumped 26 and went up into Jesus Marie and all the way up to Sheep Ranch. There was unbelievable amounts of really big, heavy equipment outside of Arnold, and they were just pushing everything down and trying to keep it from going any further. But the people that were on this side of it didn't have a chance. And so we need to make sure that something is already done that helps it. The town of McCollum Hill did not burn. The fire came right up to the edge of town of McCollum Hill because McCollum Hill had a program that they set up a fire break, and the fire, they could see it. I was up here on the hill right over the top here watching it, and I thought it was burning up McCollum Hill, but it didn't burn McCollum Hill because they did something proactively to eliminate the need to be victims of that fire as well, because there would have been a whole town that would have went up. Is that true?
You want us to address some
High
of that?
possibility, yes.
Yes, I think it would have been a high possibility, more than a high
address a couple of
possibility.
his.
Mike, you want to address some of those issues?
Yeah, we did do proactive stuff in advance, and if you're familiar with the area, there's 3 canyons that merge together, go to the McCallamy River, and then the next big one is the Boston Gulch, and that's where the Boston
That's where the fire hit the road.
went up. We were able to cut it off, and we had reduced fuel because we went in there and reduced the fuel load. But I will tell you that everybody fought, Cal Fire, everybody was down over the side trying to block that thing from coming down the river. And the reason McCallum Hills did not get injured at all is because the fire didn't get to McAlmeo until about 1 in the morning, and it was no longer 105 degrees. But we did a good job, so we'll take credit for it, right? We also are engaged with a couple different outfits that are doing fuel reduction. The previous one was, I can't think of his name. Pat McGreevy, yeah, his group, they're doing stuff. They're gonna come back and they're gonna look at going from Boston Gulch, Boston Yale, Boston Gulch, and then all the way to Glencoe. We currently are engaged with the Calaveras County Resource Conservation District. They have funding, they applied for a grant, and they are going to do what's called a shaded fuel break. In other words, they're going to take almost every piece of brush other than anything below, I think it's 8 inches, is going to be removed. They're going to go from Highway 49, 13 turns, all the way up. They said they're even going to do my place. I said, do you know the name of that gulch? It's Steep Gulch. I don't think you're doing my gulch, but if you can do it, that's fine. What we will do is we will talk to 2 different groups about applying for funding to do the same shaded fuel break as much as we can get down here. Right now, everybody's thinking about it, and that means that money is more likely available. So we need to move as fast as we can, and we will.
If that was done down here, would our insurance go down?
Why did you ask me? The answer is, there's been big losses in California. And insurance companies didn't go in business to take losses. They went into business to make a little money while they guaranteed somebody else's.
So I can speak to that a little bit. I recently passed my insurance licensing test, so I have an idea of what's expected of insurance companies. So insurance companies are required to carry reinsurance, so to keep them from getting into financial trouble, right? So they can cover your insurance if they have things that happen. The reason that we're losing insurance companies here, because it's not that they're not insuring people here, they're just pulling out of the state entirely. They are going away. And it's not just the little companies, it's the big companies. State Farm is gone, Capital Insurance Group is gone. They're even canceling renter's insurance and car insurance, because it's happened to me. Both times they told me because of the fires. So the fact of the matter is, because they have to look at the loss ratios, they can't take anything that is going to give them too much loss, too much potential loss, because they're gambling essentially, right? And because they're regulated on how much loss they can have, that's why we're losing them. We are way too high risk, and there is not a lot that we can do to mitigate that risk, because there is so much wildland here that we as citizens don't maintain. That's left to the government to maintain. And if they don't maintain it, we can't change it. So there's that.
So anyhow, we'll try and partner up with these people to apply for these grants and do this work, and we will ask them to take a look at the Green Mine Canyon.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to talk to people about insurance as well. I met with the state fire marshal on Wednesday of this week as part of our state association. The poor guy was talking about his how these new maps are coming out that Cal Fire spoke to, and he's had his insurance drop twice.
Yeah.
So it's, and I guarantee the state fire marshal's going to have a fire safe house. I certainly hope so.
Absolutely.
So we could talk, and I think after this, we now have someone who's expert in insurance. I'll pick her mind.
And maybe we could have a meeting just about that for us.
If we, yeah, unfortunately, it's very challenging to get answers that are acceptable.
You'll come to that meeting, won't you?
I'll do my best.
But we could talk about that. Insurance question, or?
I do have I have a statement to say, actually, and then a question goes along with it.
When I first moved up here, I had homeowners insurance, and they took my house, the new house I got 2 years ago. And we moved in, and everything was fine. And then one of the fires happened, and they dropped my fire insurance. I had to go to that California Fair Plan, right? And my insurance company told me the reason they were dropping me is because I was 2 miles too far away from the man's fire station in Valley Springs, because my address is Valley Springs up here. And so they dropped me because of that. Well, McCalmy Hill Fire Station, is that a manned fire station? So yes, it's not, it's still volunteer.
It's not, but you're in the McCalmy Hill Fire Protection District.
Right. So my question now is, if McCalmy Hill Fire Station was a manned fire station, would we be able to get out of the California Fair Plan up here? Because now our insurance, or our fire station is only 5 miles away, which is the law line, right? Where you gotta be within 5 miles. That's what all my insurance, all the insurance companies I talk to, you gotta be within 5 miles of a firehouse up here in order for them to cover you without California Fair Plan.
So, I can address that.
And then I want to get down to some final questions, because I promised all these guys I'd only take them up for an hour in the heat. But many of them are going to stick around, so I'll answer all the questions. Chief?
So, as I told you earlier, the McCalmy Hill Fire Protection District is now a 4, and Paloma is considered 4X. That means that we have the equipment, we have the response time, we've done all the stuff that makes us look good, like actually we were no, I won't say that. Might be one of the better ratings in the whole county. But I think San Andreas is a 4 also. But the insurance companies are just looking, and they are no longer using the ISO rating. They look at this map that the state is doing, and they say, this is danger area for us. If it's a danger area for you, it's a danger area for them.
Yep.
I had one of our people in McCalmy Hill pursue 3A insurance because it went up to, what do you say, something like $4,000 or something or other. It's just bizarre.
Yep.
Yeah, my fire insurance was $5,000 a year.
So he asked me, I sent him a copy of the ISO rating saying where we are. His insurance company, which happened to be 3A, called me and says, well, we don't care what your ISO rating is. We do our own rating. And she sent me a form, which was also covered under the ISO rating. But so I ended up going out and driving the distance from the firehouse to their house. Actually, they had 2. And measuring the distance from their fire hydrant to the house. And you're just dealing with people that are living in little boxes, trying to judge what they can't see. So I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you have to go that extra mile and harass them and say, hey, I live this close to whatever. The McCalmy Hill Fire Protection District is a 4X for Paloma. That will change when we get the rating, because now it has to do with 7 minutes away. So because you're 7 minutes away from our station in McCalmy Hill, they put an X on it. That means you're more than 7 minutes. So when we get them to re-rate it, now we have a station here, we have 2 engines here, we have 4 or 5 volunteers, which is almost as many as we have that reside in McCalmy Hill. So hopefully that will get better.
I want to thank everybody. I want to be respectful to these guys who came on this Saturday to help us out on a hot day. But I know we all have a lot of other questions I want to ask the CHP about the guys racing up Paloma Road with the pipes wide open.
Right.
I'm sure somebody has a question for Health and Human Services. Cal Fire Defensible Space. Volunteering, if you are interested in volunteering and can help out the Red Cross or our local fire department, please, this is our time to sign up. And then who else we got here? OES, get everybody, if you have any questions, grab us. Let's go through it. But I really want to thank all these guys who came out on their Saturday and joined Paloma and shared with us.
And we also have the lady from Volunteer Evacuation from Amador. So if you have animals, do you want to pre-register them? Don't let her get away without you being.
Really, to Fred's point, that's very important. We had people in the Butte Fire pulling up to the corrals, dropping their trailers, and we're not knowing who they are trying to take your animals. So go with the trusted sources. Guys, thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much, Mokill Fire, for hosting us. Thank you.
So I have some more stuff we want to talk about, and that is this fire station. All that stuff you see right behind you, all of that equipment against that wall is supposed to be a bathroom and cleaning supplies or cleaning stations for the people that respond to fires. If they go to a hazmat fire or come back and they're contaminated with the fire, they need to clean up. Like I said, there's only one water spigot out there. This fire engine needs to be taken care of. So what I'd like to do is ask our representatives from the community and from the federal and state agencies, is there some way that we can get some of this work done using local people, using local contractors, and this thing about the state going out to bid and blah, 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 all that stuff, we need to make it so that local people are getting the work and that are getting it done, and they're giving us a good, honest attempt to make this into a cooling station, to make this a fire station that is complete and usable for the people in Paloma. That'll help our insurance a lot.